Alright guys, so I think that we're going to start with the questions. If you guys have any questions, please comment down below, and if you don't have any questions, I'm just going to start with the questions that were left on the last video comments. Okay, what do you think about Duolingo? Do I use it? I used to use it. That's how I started Portuguese. I think 2 years ago. I gave it a go. I gave it a go for like about a month, and I almost reached the last levels, but at the end I really wasn't able to continue, and I just quit learning Portuguese, and then I started learning Portuguese at the beginning of this year again, and I think I've been really constant with that. I like Duolingo because it's free and it's also really interactive, but I don't really use it. I like it and I would recommend it if you're just trying to feel out languages, and if you're trying to if you're not sure about the languages that you want to learn and you want to see like which languages you like best, I really recommend it for that, but otherwise I don't use it. All right, hey, how could you upgrade from a B1 to a C1 or from intermediate to advanced? So I think that it really depends on the language that you are sort of like trying to learn, right? Because for me, in terms of Portuguese and Romance languages, since I'm a Romance language speaker, a native Romance language speaker, my first language is Spanish, I think that it was so easy for me to go immediately from beginner to intermediate, and then from intermediate to advanced in Italian and Portuguese. When I started learning those languages, it was so much harder for me to do that with German and a little bit with French, even though that it's also a Romance language as well. But I think that what you really need to think about is like the things that you have to work on the most. So for example, I know that for French, my weakness is really my pronunciation, so I try to hone in on that and focus on that. I know that for German, my weak point is my grammar, so I try to focus on that, and I think that's how you can sort of like get from intermediate to advanced. It really depends on what you're trying to work on, but for the most part, I would just recommend that you continue practicing and practicing and practicing every single day. All right, from Asian Fangirl Fitness, what is the hardest language that you learned? So far, the hardest language that I learned was Arabic. As I told you guys before, I quit learning Arabic because it was way too hard. And I know that that sounds kind of like demotivating, and I'm not saying that you can't learn Arabic. It's just that I really so I've said this in previous videos before, but I basically just left it up to the school to teach me the language, and I wasn't really looking for movies on my own or looking for Arabic music on my own. And the reason why Arabic was so hard for me is because I wasn't really practicing enough, and it got harder and harder and harder. And what was the hardest thing was to realize that after 2 years I couldn't even form 3 or 4 sentences, and that was very frustrating. So I mean, like Arabic per se is a really hard language, but I think that the hardest thing was really not practicing, because I just plateaued, and then my levels started decreasing the less I practiced, and after that I just forgot it. When are you going to learn Dutch? I like Dutch. I think it is sort of intelligible because of German, but I don't know. Right now, I think that my last European language is going to be Russian, and after that, I'm going to focus more on Asian languages. And the reason for that is because literally all of my friends are from Asia, and it's just like, I mean, why am of course I love European languages, but I also want to connect with my friends and the people around me. So I think that I'm going to focus a little bit more on that. Okay, from Giovanni AF. What do you do when you have zero energy to study your languages? So when I don't have energy, I think that I just watch TV in other languages. And the thing is that no matter what I'm doing, I'm always practicing a language, because when I'm watching a YouTube video in English, I'm practicing my English language. I am very attentive to the words that are said. I am very attentive to the expressions that are said that I don't know or understand. And it always kind of like piques my curiosity. I'm very curious about words. So I don't know, like if I listen to a word that I've never heard before, I try to look it up on the dictionary. It doesn't take much of an effort. But if I'm really tired and I just don't want to learn languages at all, I don't know, it's kind of impossible because you're always having some sort of input, like whether it's reading or music or whatever it is, even in my native language. So I think that my only option would be to like look up at the ceiling, and that's not very entertaining for me. But yeah, I think that in that sense, I am always learning languages, and I always try to pick out the words that I don't know in whatever language it is, even if it's in Spanish, my native language, so that I can keep on learning a little bit more. Okay, from Anjali Kano. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Okay, how many hours do you spend on average a day during the school year studying your languages? So this is very interesting, and I actually made a video of this where you can follow me throughout my school day. I go to university. I'm in my third year. So you can basically follow me, and I take a lot of language courses at university. So I spend a lot of hours learning languages. It differs from semester to semester, but in essence, I would say at least when I'm in university, probably 5 hours, because I take German. German is very time intensive as a class. So that's almost 2 hours plus homework. That's almost like 4 hours. But I try to, and I also go to lunch with my professors, and I talk to them in their native language. They're from Europe, so that's also a great thing that my university has to offer, and that's why I can practice languages so much even when I am at university. All right, from Brent Neve. Hey, I have been studying French seriously. I'm about to go into a week where I can only speak French, but I've been thinking of starting Portuguese or Ukrainian. How do I do about this? How do I go about this? So if you're just going to be speaking French for a week, I think that you can postpone it. I don't see the point in starting 2 other languages as you're like during the week that you're speaking French. But just to make kind of like a segue in terms of like if you can juggle several languages at the same time, I think you can. I was at a sort of like a similar thing at a German immersion program during the summer in my house. I didn't go out, it was like online, but I was supposed to be learning as much German as possible, and you can watch video. It was 11 hours a day. It was super intensive, and the way that I went around it was that I would only, I didn't have enough time to go through all of the languages, but when I could, I would just learn almost 10 words for each language. So I did my best to do that, but I wasn't able to complete every single language every day. All right. From I like the color yellow, what are the next languages you intend on learning? So as I said before, just right now, most of my friends are from Asia. My best friend is from China. My other best friend is from Vietnam. And I really want to learn Vietnamese, Japanese, Chinese, Korean. Most of my friends are Asian, so I think that I'm going to get closer to those languages, or at least try to learn some of them, but unfortunately Japanese didn't fit into my schedule, so I guess I'm going to start with Russian first, and then I'm going to concentrate on Asian languages. Was German hard to learn? I'm native German, and everybody says German is very hard to learn. Yes, German was very hard to learn, especially because when you are used to learning Romance languages, it is very hard to get used to the cases. So yes, I think that it was really, really hard for me to learn German, in the sense that the grammar is completely different. It's a completely different structure. I remember the first time that I tried to learn 10 words, just 10 words. It took me almost like an hour, and it usually takes me no more than 15 minutes. Because I think, and this is something that I'm going to explore in a different video, but basically I have this theory that the beginning stages of a language, especially if it's a language that you're not familiar with, like German was for me, those are the hardest stages because you don't know the patterns of the language, and it is so much harder to overcome that, and I think that's where people get stuck. So yes, German was hard at the beginning. Now it's getting a lot easier since I am getting to know the patterns and get acquainted with the patterns. So it gets easier and easier and easier the more that you practice and the more that you familiarize yourself with the language. All right, so from Lee Ji Mi, how many languages do you recommend learning at one time? That really depends. So in this live stream, I title it How I Am Learning 7 Languages at the Same Time, but obviously that came with many, many years of me practicing and including more and more languages into my daily routine. It wasn't that I woke up one day and I started learning 7 languages at the same time. And I also, like, you can do whatever you want, but I really wouldn't recommend that. I think that I would recommend learning as many as you feel comfortable with. I am really comfortable with learning 7 languages, and I know that it's going to be a little bit harder to learn 8 languages because I'm going to have to spread my focus and my time not only on 7 languages but on another more. So obviously it's going to be less focus on each language because I'm going to be focusing on another one. So you have limited resources, limited energy, limited time, and you have to be aware of that. But at the same time, I think that, I don't know. I feel like you should gauge that for yourself. Right now, I feel comfortable learning 7 languages, and I know that is going to get harder and harder. What I wouldn't recommend is learning 7 languages at the same time from the beginning stages. That would be probably not very effective from what I said before, that the beginning stages, for me at least, are the hardest ones, and you really need to focus on the language because otherwise you're just going to forget it, like it happened to me with Arabic. All right. Asian Fangirl Fitness. Do you ever get tongue-tied when switching languages? Yes, not as much as, I don't know. Yes, sometimes, especially with Portuguese and Italian, I think that it happens to me a lot because right now, since I am not, super fluent in either of them, I started both of them about a year and a half ago. So yes, it gets really complicated, especially because they're super, super similar. However, when it comes to, like, for example, switching between German and Italian, which are in my mind completely different languages, I don't really get tongue-tied, or I don't really confuse the words. Yes, I get tongue-tied and I make mistakes just like in English, but it's not as hard when it comes to switching between languages that are super different. It gets a lot harder when it comes to switching between languages that are very, very similar. ¿Cuánto tiempo tardas en aprender italiano y en qué nivel estás? Creo que en este momento estoy en nivel, no sé, la verdad, más o menos un nivel intermedio avanzado porque puedo, pues, entender todo, pero creo que me demoré más o menos un año. Voy a intentar de solamente hablar en inglés en este live chat because most of the people are asking me questions in English. Okay. ¿Tu lengua nativa es el inglés? No, mi lengua nativa es el español. Which language do you not see yourself studying anytime soon, and why? Whoa, I don't know. Maybe I want to finish my language journey with Finnish. I don't know. It'd be kind of like a pun. It'd be funny. So probably Finnish. Any tips on staying motivated and happy with language learning when you study in university? Yes, definitely take language courses and get closer to the language community. I think that people make your life so much happier, and if you have friends who are also super motivated about learning languages, you're going to be extra motivated. Sometimes when I don't want to practice language learning, my friends who are super into languages as well, they they tell me, like, hey, let's go to the French cafe, or let's go to the German cafe, or I want to do this activity, or do you want to talk in French with me? So I think that people really motivate you to stay motivated. So the more people that you can get on your side and who you can also motivate to learn languages, the easier it's going to be for you to just see it as play and not work. All right, sorry, I'm going to drink some tea. Ok. À quoi tu penses de la langue ukrainienne? Tu dis que tu vas essayer d'apprendre les russes plus tard, alors à côté de russe, c'est possible que tu puisses essayer l'ukrainien. Oui, peut-être. En fait, j'ai un ami à l'université qui est ukrainienne. Il m'a chanté la chanson de SpongeBob en ukrainien. C'était merveilleux. J'ai adoré les sons de la langue. Alors, j'espère un jour pouvoir apprendre l'ukrainien. Hello from Chile. Saludos. Okay. When do you feel fluent in a language? What level do you feel like you need to be at because the definition is so unclear? That really depends on you. If you feel like, for example, I know that Steve Kaufman is really comfortable at kind of like an intermediate level where he can read history, or at least that's what I heard from one of his videos. He's like very, very advanced and fluent in some of the languages, but I know that like his goal is to be able to read a book in whatever language he's learning. So that really depends on you, I think. Hola, ¿cuáles son los idiomas que usted estudia? Entonces estoy estudiando el inglés, francés, alemán, italiano, portugués, francés, catalán y creo que se me olvidó uno. Espera. Español, inglés, francés, alemán, italiano, portugués y catalán. Proud of you, girl. Thank you. How do you go about improving your listening comprehension with so many languages at the same time? So I learned languages little by little. I started learning English when I was like 4. After that, I started learning French when I was 10. Obviously, my native language is Spanish, so I didn't need to learn that, I guess. And then I started with German when I was at university. So I have only been learning like 7 languages since like last year or so. So it's not that complicated since I've given myself at least 5 years between languages, and the more languages I learn, the shorter and shorter it gets because it's easier. All right. Paulix99, how much time do you spend to improve your pronunciation and what is your strategy? So I just try to get as many tips and tricks and even ask native speakers that I know if I have the chance to like say to me what the word is. For example, in English, I used to struggle a lot with fountain and mountain. So I remember that I just ask a friend of mine, like, can you say this for me slowly? Can you say this for me slowly? Say it again, say it again, say it again, until I got it. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work if you don't have a friend around that can teach you the language, but I think that is the most useful thing. It took me a while to figure that out. All right. Do you think your memorization technique of writing sentences with words that you are trying to memorize makes your speech sometimes feel scripted? How do you work on sounding more natural? So I don't know. Maybe I sound like a robot. I wouldn't know. But I guess that the way that I try to sound as natural as possible is that I take phrases right off from scripts of people who are, acting. So, obviously, it's not perfect. Right now, I'm watching 3%, is a Brazilian show on Netflix. It's really good if you guys want to see it. But sometimes, they speak like normal people. They say like, oh my God, like, why didn't you do this? Like, I really need to take this mode of transportation to get there and you didn't come here. So if there's an expression that I find in that dialogue, which to me sounds pretty natural, pretty organic, something that a native speaker would say, I just try to use the words that the actors use and write them down and just memorize them like that. I think that it sounds a little bit more robotic even if you don't use the phrases, because with the phrases you have a scaffolding and you sort of like have a place to jump from, but if you don't have the phrases and if you just have one word, well, it's a little bit more difficult for you to like place it in context and use it in the way that native speakers would use. And the reason I'm saying this is because there are a lot of expressions, so a lot of the things that we take for granted and that sound completely natural to us sound very weird for somebody that's learning the language, because that's not how they say that exact thing in their language. And I don't mean like the words, I mean the way that we phrase stuff. All right. If I remember exactly, you said in a video that you made a text using the new words and you repeat the vocabulary by reading the text. Do you think it's more effective than SRS? I think that you have to use it in conjunction with space repetition systems. I use my space repetition system over here. If you want to see it, I have it over here. It's called Smart Cards. It's a great space repetition system. It's free. It's very user-friendly, and I like it, although I know a lot of people use Anki. However, I do use both things in conjunction to make my learning the most effective I can. ¿Crees que sea posible aprender un idioma de manera autónoma sin ir a una academia de idiomas? So Milena is basically asking if it's possible to learn a language, to self-study a language without going to a university. Yes, for sure. I think that having a university is an incredible resource and an incredible privilege, but it's something that not a lot of people have. It's something that I'm not going to have for the rest of my life. So if you're at university and you have those resources there, by all means take advantage of them. But if you don't, then yes, of course, by all means. I think that the majority of my learning has come from me watching YouTube videos from other YouTubers in other countries who speak the languages that I'm trying to learn. Definitely from learning languages with Netflix, which is a free extension that you can download in Google. I made a video on this. It's called like you're using Netflix wrong. You can go check it out if you want. By all means, I think that you don't need a university to learn a language. It's helpful, obviously, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessary. I think that because we were evacuated so early from my university, I was really able to make a lot of progress with Portuguese, even though I wasn't attending any Portuguese classes whatsoever. I didn't have any tutors, I didn't have any textbooks. I just had Netflix and YouTube, and that was enough for me to reach a pretty decent level. All right, Russ W. Are you friends with any other language YouTubers? Have you thought about collaborating with some other channels? Yes, I did send Elise an email. I haven't checked it, but I don't think I've gotten a response. I would love to work with her. I haven't really contacted or been contacted by other YouTubers. The thing is that doing YouTube takes a lot of time. I know it doesn't seem like it just seems like you're talking to a camera, but doing collaborations and writing emails and like waiting for other people to respond and everything, and even just doing a YouTube video by yourself takes a lot of time and planning. So it's definitely on the works. Definitely some collaboration is going to take place at some point, I promise. In your family, is there someone who is a polyglot too? No, there's nobody who's a polyglot in my family. My parents do speak English and Spanish, mostly because we moved to the United States and they basically had to learn English. But no, there is not a polyglot in my family, unfortunately. I would love for there to be a polyglot. That would be really fun. How are you learning German? So I made 2 videos about that. So if you guys want to watch that, you're welcome to. But basically, I started learning German at university. My first year of university, I started my first semester, and I've been taking German courses ever since. They're about an hour every single day of the week. We have about 2 hours of homework, and after that, I also participate in the German play, which is it's not like it's serious, but it's not like a super serious like theater thing. It's mostly so that we get super comfortable with the language, and we have, I think, practice 1.5 hours 3 times a week or something like that. What are your advices to a young teenager who studies hard for school but also wants to take time for languages? I love your channel, keep it up. So if you're in school, I would recommend that if you ever have time to like watch YouTube videos or watch Netflix, I would recommend that you slowly but surely look for YouTubers that you like in, I don't know what language you're learning, but for example, if you're learning French, just look for YouTubers that you enjoy. Probably the first person that you watch is not going to be your favorite YouTuber ever, or the first song that you listen to in French is not going to be your favorite song ever, but just try to look for the things that you like, and I assure you that you're going to find something. So just look for things that you organically enjoy, and after that is just easy because you're just going to look for them since you enjoy it, and it's just going to seem like you're chillaxing in your bed, you know, having some tea, eating something, and just having a nice relaxing time. What's your favorite language? It depends on the day. I love Spanish. I love flamenco. I love the music in Spain. It kind of like makes me vibrate. I don't know. I love it. I love it. I love my native language. But of course, I have days when I am absolutely obsessed with French or absolutely obsessed with Portuguese. Like right now, I am doing a lot of Portuguese because that's what I'm enjoying the most right now. But a few weeks before, I was doing a lot of German. So it really depends. However, I would say that Spanish is definitely the basis of everything. I love it. I used to think that when I was little, I used to think that everybody in the world spoke Spanish. Isn't that crazy? The assumptions that kids make. Do you know any dead languages? Unfortunately, no, I don't know Latin. Hola, how can you keep the motivation in your language learning process? I think that what I do is just try to not fatigue myself. As I said before, I just try to look for a lot of media in several languages. So I watch Netflix shows, watch TV, I read books that I enjoy. So I'm always doing things that I would otherwise do in English or in Spanish, but in French or Portuguese or Italian. Obviously, I have to like cater to my level because I can't just read like, I don't know, a super difficult book in a language that I'm just beginning to learn. But even then, I do things that I know that I'm truly going to enjoy. And, you know, just try to look for ways that you can make the language more entertaining. I wanted to learn Italian. It's easy, but it sounds like Spanish a little. It does sound like Spanish. A little bit. I love Money Heist. Yes, I have watched it. It was addictive. It was absolutely awesome. It was incredible. It was one of the best series I've watched. So if you haven't seen Money Heist, by all means, watch Money Heist. Do you ever use a memory palace? I don't. I should be using a memory palace. Do you use paper flashcards or electronic flashcards? So I'm gonna show you. This is what I use. It's called Smart Cards. I really enjoy it. It's really easy to use. I also try to use paper so that if I forget a word or I'm constantly forgetting a word and not getting it right, I can just write it down. I think that writing it down is really, really important. So don't substitute electronic flashcards for writing. I think that you can use this, but whenever you realize that you're forgetting a word constantly, I would recommend that you write it down somewhere and that you like write it 3 times, and then if the next day you continue on forgetting it, just continue to write it as much as possible. What do you hope for the future of your YouTube channel? I hope that it becomes something more holistic. I hope that I can talk a lot more about culture, and I can include a lot more culture into my channel, and that's something that I'm working on. Which French movies do you recommend? I recommend, I know that this is so cliche, but actually Blue is the Warmest Color is a great movie, but I just watched Jeux d'enfant. I'm going to put it here. Jeux d'enfant. Would or do you FaceTime with other people learning languages? I don't. I have never had a tutor online that I can remember, aside from like the program that I made, but it wasn't supposed to happen online. It was supposed to happen live. The only thing that happened was coronavirus, so that's why I wasn't able to like go there. But I don't really like FaceTime or Zoom people to do language learning or anything of the sort. Blue is the Warmest Color is such a great movie. MILF was a funny movie. It was a funny French movie. It was. I don't know. It was weird. It wasn't my favorite French movie. But it was funny. It was a little bit Americanized, I think. Have you seen Intouchable? Yes, it's a great movie. I loved it. It was awesome. Do you like French music? What is your favorite singer? I was absolutely obsessed with, and again, super cliche, but Stromae. I adored that freaking man when I was, I think, 15 or 14. I was so into his album Cheese. Then I listened to all his songs. He was like my jam. I loved him. I adored his music. I am in high school and taking college classes, and I find myself being super busy. I am trying to learn Spanish right now, but it's becoming a problem with my schedule. How do I learn when I'm busy? If you have, again, any time to relax, just watch Money Heist in Spanish. I would suggest that you download the double subtitles, which you can get at Learn Languages with Netflix. Is basically an extension. I explain how to do it in You're Using Netflix Wrong You're Using Netflix Wrong video, so you can, I don't know, chillax and just not do some homework for like an hour and just watch a Netflix show if you're, if you can fit that into your schedule. What are your favorite? Okay, this is going to be the final question. Oh well, first, okay, this is going to be my final question. I like talking to you about languages. I got so bored today until you made a live video. Now I'm influenced again. Oh, thank you so much. That wasn't a question, so I'm still taking the final question. What is it gonna be? Do you like Anki? That's going to be our final question. No. It's not that I dislike it, it's just that it was really hard to use. It was not very user friendly when I utilized it, so I don't use it, unfortunately. What I really like for a spaced repetition program is smart cards. Is what I use on my phone. I wake up and sometimes I just review flashcards. I think that it is the best way for me to have my flashcards in my pocket, so that is what I use. All right, I'm going to take another 2 questions and that's going to be it. All right, what is your career plan post-college? Would you go into art history field or something language related? Actually, that's no. In the United States, you need to first get a bachelor's degree in order to go to law school, so I am going to go to law school. I hope, hopefully. Cross fingers crossed. Hypothetically speaking, if I offered to pay you complete my French essays and write out my essays in French, would you take it? No, that sounds like a lot of work. You have to pay me a lot of money to do that. I'm sorry. Please come to my school because our English teacher, oh my god, no, stop. Alright. I'm going to go, guys. Thank you so much for this beautiful live stream. It was so great to talk to you. If you guys want to, listen to some music or, just start practicing some languages, I have my Spotify playlist, which you can access in the description down below. And I will leave you to study some languages, guys. So, bye-bye.